What do you do when your faith system no longer fits? Because sometimes you outgrow it. Sometimes you graduate, you ascend, you leave the old, itchy, worn-out way, and you begin to walk in the new. Sometimes you grow. Join the conversation with me, Tony Werfel, author, speaker, teaching pastor, as we help unwrap and rebuild a faith that no longer fits. We learn to walk into the new, messy journey called life. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us again. This is our second podcast, and I think we're getting started off strong. Again, we are here to talk about life, the messy journey we're all on, the fact that some of us, the thing no longer fits, the system no longer fits, and we're looking for something new, something that fits into our new understanding of the world. And so we don't avoid those questions, the disruption, the change. We actually delve deeply into them. And so today we're going to look at an oftentimes misused book, one that's taken very literally today. And I want to show you something a bit deeper that goes beyond the literalism into a deeper meaning. And I think when we get there, we can do the hard work of application. So first off, when approaching the Bible, the ancients, they actually understood each text to have layers of meaning. So let me say it this way. Many people, they'll often stay at the first layer, which for many it works, and I think that's okay for them. But I'm someone that I need something deeper. I need science and history not to be a conflict with what I'm reading, but to be able to mesh the two together, to see how they can be joined. And so these different layers, I think they're helpful when we begin to delve into Scripture, the Bible. How do we view it responsibly? So first off, the way they would view it is they have layers, and the first one is peshat, which means the literal retelling of the story. It's the easily repeatable one. And it's for many, it's the story you heard and then you tell it around a campfire. That's the first layer, very simple. The second layer is remez, which it looks more like the metaphor. You look for the metaphor, the bigger idea behind it, because there's always something bigger within the story. So for instance, today we might say that red sign, that octangular red sign, it's not just a sign, there's actually deep meaning behind it. It means to stop, preserve life, keep safety, right? So remez is the metaphor. The third layer is derash. And this is when we ask the question, what does it teach me about life and learning to be more fully human? So then you move into the application. The fourth is sod. It's the deepest level. And this is where you put all three of those together and you wind up with an aha moment. And you're seeing all three combined to give you this sense of the larger picture, how to live fully. And you understand, you apply the moral, you see the simplistic, and yet you allow the deeper levels to change you. And so as we approach Genesis 1 and some of 2, we're going to view it with those layers in mind. So before even delving into it, let's look a little history. First of all, the people who are writing this, they're Babylonian exiles. In the time periods around 587 BC, this is what most scholars believe. And these people, they lost their land. They're conquered people. Their temples destroyed by this foreign oppressive power, the Babylonians. And they're marched hundreds of miles on foot. They're paraded around like trophies there in this foreign city. And they're basically, when they're there, they're mixed with all these other conquered tribes. And what begins to happen is they lose their story. And I think this is what we do. I come from a German background. My grandparents came here from Germany during World War II. And what's fascinating is we no longer have the accent. We've lost all of these awesome traditions. And none of us can replicate grandma's recipes anymore because we've forgotten some of our heritage. And we often forget where we come from. We lose our identity. And so to preserve this from happening, to preserve their identity, the Hebrew people began retelling their stories. They're writing them down. And they're not doing this to create this tight-knit, perfect historical telling, because that's not how they wrote back then. It's to remind them who they are. And so like all the other tribes at that time, you start with the beginning. You start with an origin. And every empire, every civilization, they have one of these stories. So for the Jews, who were living under Babylonian captivity, they began writing their story and their origins to establish what they valued, who they were. And so at this very same time, under the Babylonian captivity, there with the Babylonians, there is a Babylonian creation narrative. And this one's called Enuma Elish, which tells of this really bloody battle between this mother and this son. The son's named Marduk. And in the battle, this bloody, epic battle, Marduk cuts his mother in half. And so this moment of like absolute violence and chaos, that's what starts creation for them. So for the Babylonian empires, one that's centered around war and empire building, violence, their story resembles what they value. So for the Jewish people, their story is one of order and repair. It's where creation continues into something bigger. So both the accounts of Genesis 1 and 2, a poem and a narrative, they have some differences, but the main idea is still intact. So when you look at Genesis 1:1, it starts with Israel's God creating. And the beautiful idea here is that God steps into emptiness. And the Hebrew word there, it means chaos. So right from the beginning, there's this distinction between the Hebrew story and the Babylonian one. Our God steps in, and rather than creating chaos, actually starts to order things, bring life. So day one, this God begins creating space, because that's what you do when you first start to move away from chaos. Anyone feeling like your life is kind of chaotic right now? Anyone feeling like maybe you're beginning to drown in all the stuff your life is filled with? Because here's the beauty of the story. Maybe it's time to go to the dining room table of your life, that space in your life, and begin making space, clearing things off. So, are there relationships that need to be removed or changed? Is there some inner work you need to do in order to experience real freedom? Are there some people that you need to forgive? Do you maybe need to forgive yourself? Because sometimes in order to find peace, we have to clear off the table. And so day 1, 2, and 3, we see this picture of the divine clearing the heavens and the earth, the sky, the dry land, the plants. Basically, this God is creating space, making room. And what happens when space is created? Well, what happens when you've cleared off your own crazy, hectic, cluttered living room table? After you do that, after you clean it off, you can then actually use it. You can put the nice china on, the napkins, the silverware. You can eventually have some food and drinks, break out the vino, right? Because here's the message. Only after you clear off the space can you begin filling your life with good things. Before you step into another relationship, maybe take time to process why the last one failed. Maybe before you take the next job, ask yourself why the last one was so unfulfilling. What are you really needing from an occupation to feel like you're using your gifts fully? So Israel's God fills the space of light and darkness, the heavens and the earth, with stars, the moon, the sun, and it's just this beautiful picture. Fills the empty sky with birds, empty oceans with sea creatures, and the dry land and the plants now have animals and people to fill it. And the story, while it's super simple, one could even say it's archaic. Don't miss the fact that there's this deeper, deeper meaning, because with each layer, it gets more and more complex. Ever wonder why you're always feeling hungry? You're never feeling really fulfilled? Maybe that's your body telling you stop, breathe, reorder, then enjoy the meal before you. Because maybe for some of us, we need to take time and allow ourselves to heal, to recreate, then enjoy, fully enjoy. And I mean be like fully present in your life. Because watch what happens next. On the last day, we're told after all the space is filled, this God rests. And the idea here is not that this God is tired. It's that this God stops and takes time to enjoy what's been created. And that whole idea of the Sabbath and all that could be its own podcast today. But let's make it really simple for now. When you've done the hard work, when you've cleared the space and then found healing, and you've actually created new things and plated the table, only then can you take time to enjoy it. We often rush back into creating, but we weren't meant to live like that. That's what machines do. We need to take time and enjoy the things we've created. So deep within Judaism is the idea to stop, breathe, remind yourself to be human, enjoy life. It's a gift. So today my prayer for you is, after the hard work is done, after you've done the interior work, you've done the forgiving, you've looked back at your story, you've seen some of the themes and the reoccurring issues over in your life, and you begin to clear space and begin to fill it again. Take time to enjoy the space that's been filled. Take time to enjoy. Take time to breathe, to Sabbath. Blessings the rest of the week, everyone. I hope you've had, I hope this has been compelling. I hope this has met some of our needs and that you've been able to see something deeper here. And if you felt compelled or if you found this helpful, please feel free to visit my site, TonyWerfel.com. Share a one-time donation, a monthly donation, whatever you can give. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Blessings. Bye.